We continue to wonder what the 76ers' next move will be. We are still waiting, people. We're going to break it down right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Locked On 76ers. We're your host, 76ers beat writer Keith Pompey. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Bluecoats, the NBA G League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And Keith, once again, we are wondering what the 76ers can do. It's starting to become a trend for the Philadelphia team.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it just seems like summertime comes, the 76ers, well, they finish up maybe a second-round exit, a first-round exit. This year comes out to be they didn't even make the playoffs. And everybody wonders what's going to happen. How are they going to upgrade the team? And, you know, this year, what the focus is, you know, last year was free agency. Will they get Paul George or not? But this year, the focus right now is on the draft. And as you know, and as I've learned, too, over the years, is that there's a lot of misinformation coming out right now where that everyone is saying, well, the Sixers can do this, the Sixers can do that. Now, the one thing that I will tell you in regards to it, you know, there are certain NBA scouts who feel like when it comes down to the 76ers, they feel like that, you know what, maybe the 76ers should trade back a little bit. Because you look at it, yes, Ace Bailey is a good guy, but he's not quite ready just yet. He has a huge upside. The Sixers window now, so maybe they should trade that pick. And so you get certain people writing about that and everything like that. But the 76ers are saying they're going to keep the pick. So the question is, if you're going to keep the pick, is it going to be Ace Bailey? Is it going to be VJ Edgecombe, Tre Johnson? Who is it going to be? So right now, that's the big thing that everyone right now is focused on. Who are the 76ers going to pick? And, you know, we'll figure it out in a couple months. But I think that this is so early in the process to whereas, you know, they got to interview these guys. They got to bring them in for workouts. There's a lot of other things that has to go into play to see who's going to be the perfect fit for them.
And it can be tough, too, because you can do all that and then they get it with the team and it's a young player that really needs some time to gel. And maybe it doesn't end up happening that first year. But when you're looking at the timeline of the Philadelphia 76ers, in particular with Joel Embiid, even Paul George, those guys are really injury prone, and Joel Embiid's coming off of surgery. He's absolutely in win now mode if he can come back healthy, and only might have 2 more years left, if that, even this season coming up, he has as well. And it's interesting because clearly a lot of people are looking at, okay, you know, Cooper Flagg's at number 1. Dylan Harper's at number 2. Ace Bailey, a lot of the talk was at number 3. We even talked about the upside of Ace Bailey, still a young player, but there are other options that the 76ers team could look at. And I'm curious on draft night where they will go, because I do believe that Ace Bailey would be the guy at number 3. But if you bring guys in for interviews, guys work out for you, maybe you like how a guy's going to fit better with the team. VJ Edgecombe is another name that you could look at as well, in addition to Tre Johnson. Now they stand in a little bit smaller in terms of how they're in height-wise in their shoes. Edgecombe at 6'5", Johnson at 6'6". But those are other options, Keith. I would be surprised if they go there. Do you think either of those guys would fit better with the 76ers than Ace Bailey?
No, I mean, I think Ace Bailey right now is the perfect fit. But the only question mark is, you know, who right now do you think can come in and be more impactful, right? There are certain people that say Ace Bailey has a huge upside. You know, he takes tough shots. He does other things. But those people think that he might be a ways away, meaning of being a superstar that you need them to be a couple years away. The 76ers timeline right now is they got to win now. Like, the window is closing. So when we look at it, I mean, I think that, the problem with the other two is you have a plethora of guards. But again, if you feel like that that's the best player, regardless of who else you got on the roster, you got to take the best player. You just have to. I mean, because, it's one of those things where you don't know how that person is what he's going to be like in a couple of years. You know what I mean? So you have to take him. But again, it's going to come down. Like, I think right now, like, if the first thing that they did is they met these players in Chicago. They had interviews with them, kind of like a filling out process. Yeah. Well, the next step is going to be, they're going to do background checks. They're going to do all that other stuff. And then the third thing is when they come into they're going to come to Philadelphia or come to South Jersey, and they're going to work out with the team. The team is going to take them out to dinner. They're going to, do a lot of, have conversations with them. And that's when they really decide. Now, one would assume that because of, Ace Bailey being regarded coming out of high school and all this as the best player, you would think that he, in my opinion, Daryl Morey's opinion could be different. Yeah. In my opinion, you would think that he would be the front runner. But again, he has to stay that way because those other two guys are going to be selling big time. Like they're going to be like, yes, sir, no, sir. They're going to do a lot of different things. They're going to, they're just going to try to be as impactful when they're on the floor and as impressive when they're in those interviews. So those are the things that, that's going to really determine who they pick. But right now, if you ask me, in my opinion, who I would take, I would still take Ace Bailey. A lot of people don't agree, but I shouldn't say a lot, but so some people don't, but I would still take him.
And when I look at this now, if they were 4 or 5, clearly you're having a different topic of conversation, right? But the fact that you were able to keep your pick in a lottery that was quite traumatic in the sense of where a lot of these teams ended up, the 76ers get the top 3 pick. This is huge. A lot of, fans getting excited because it was such a rough season, but the 76ers did one thing right and they tanked and they were able to get the top 3 pick. I think this is a really crucial decision to make for Daryl Morey. And at the end of the day, you could pick Ace Bailey and it could not pan out, right? You could pick a Dylan Harper and it could not pan out. Now, I think he's going to be a very good NBA player, but you just truly never know how their game might transition to the NBA and with the team that you currently have. So it can be a risk no matter which way you put it. I am in agreement fully with you, and we have touched on this before. I would love to say that it could be VJ Edgecombe or it could be Tre Johnson. But to me, I truly do believe that Ace Bailey will be the good fit for this Philadelphia 76ers team. So we will wait and see where they go on draft night. It's almost leading up to it, people. We're super excited, getting ready for it. And as Ace Bailey is on our minds and these other picks possibly, that could be other options for the Philadelphia 76ers. So we'll continue to pounce on this topic a little bit right here on Locked On 76ers, but we do have to take a step off from our great sponsor. And ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. Surprising insights. When I start using Monarch Money, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. All in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So make sure you go check out Monarch Money today. Now, Keith, not that this is similar to last year, but it reminds me of draft night when Jared McCain got picked up, because clearly it was a little bit later in that first round, but Dalton Knecht was still on the board. And you say to yourself, okay, 76ers have to draft Dalton Knecht. They have to. He's the easy pick. He is a win now type player. They picked Jared McCain. Me and you both said, oh, we don't know if he's going to pan out. He had really good games with the 76ers. We'll see how he comes back from injury. Now, I compare it to that because Ace Bailey, to me, is the obvious choice. Clearly, the 76ers can go in a different direction depending on how these workouts, how these interview goes, and things like that. You don't know what's going to happen on that draft night. And to me, could this be another Jared McCain situation where the 76ers kind of shock a lot of people and say, no, we're going to go VJ Edgecombe, Tre Johnson, another player, because we feel that'll fit better with the 76ers squad? Do you see that happening? I know anything could happen, but realistically, where are their heads on draft night?
I mean, it's hard to say, where their heads are on draft night. But I will say this. The reason why, there was a reason why Dalton Knecht slipped, because there was a lot of other teams that should have drafted him and he just slid, right? Yeah. I kind of think when we talk about Jared McCain, you look at it and the situation was that they had a lot of inside knowledge. I mean, we're going to be real. Like, Elton Brand, is arguably one of the top 5 greatest Duke basketball players when he was there, right? So, so he has intimate knowledge with the organization. People tell him stuff about him. So I felt like he kind of knew that was going to be his guy. Yeah, I mean, it was, to me, it just seemed like there was a reason why Dalton slid. I think that with this pick, it's going to be different. Like, unless Dylan Harper slides, the 76ers are going to take the guy, Dylan Harper, unless Dylan Harper or Cooper Flagg slide, the Sixers are going to take the guy who they always felt was the better player. And right now, and when that pick is that high, it's not about fit. It's about who you feel like is going to be the best player. Because let's be honest, when we talk about fit, it would be different if you had a young Joel Embiid and you had, a younger Paul George, and this team was like a key piece away from making it to the championship, right? And then at that point, it would be a late draft pick, right? So, or a second round pick. Then you go that way. I think that right now, when you're this high, you have to base it off of who you felt like was the best guy. And I think that's what they're going to make the pick off of. It's not going to be, one of those things like it was. It's going to be, whoever's the best guy, because let's face it, they got to win. They actually have to win. And this is going to be a vital season for them next year, and they got to get their act together.
And we've touched on, too, it's a make or break season for a lot of guys. What's going to happen with Joel Embiid? What's going to happen with Paul George? This will probably be the testing year for Daryl Morey and his job as well, depending, what happens this season, how the draft pick comes in, how it's able to really go within this offense, within this defense as well. And I think this draft class is really exciting. And I think there's a lot of pieces that you look at and you say, okay, well, they could be really good players in the NBA. And the 76ers, they have one pick at number 3. And it is important to get that pick right. Now, it's no disrespect to guys like VJ Edgecombe and Tre Johnson, even Jeremiah Fears. He's been a big topic of conversation and has really kind of moved up in the ranks, at least on my mock draft board as well, in terms of what he can bring to an organization. But I think when you look at this particular spot for Philadelphia, Ace Bailey is definitely your guy. And it's exciting to see that the 76ers could have such an easy pick. And we've touched on it before. Stories were out there that crazy things that the Sixers said happened. And the reality of the situation is, Keith, they just have a lot more flexibility with this pick now. Could they possibly go make a trade with it? I mean, guys, yeah, there's a possibility, right? There's definitely a possibility that Daryl Morey could go and do that. We're not saying that he's going to do that, but it gives them a little bit more flexibility to even have that decision as well.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like we talked about this before, right now it's just a matter of they have a lot of options to do whatever they want. I forget who it was. They would say optionality. I think it was Sam Hinkie. He would use that word a lot. We got optionality. So here's the deal. Like, I mean, there's going to be the 76ers. I mean, like, here's the thing. They got to do their due diligence on whatever they do, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can't mess this up. You just can't. So, there are going to be, and here's the thing. You can't believe anything you say right now. You just can't. Unless you got a real good source who you really, really trust, right? You can't believe what's going on. And even still with that person, things could change in a month by the time the draft comes up. Like they can't. Like this time a couple years ago, everybody and their mom thought that James Harden was going to be a Houston Rocket, right? Well, guess what happens? The Houston Rockets, they hired Ime Udoka, and then comes to find out Ime didn't want James on the team. So they didn't get James towards the end once he did it. So, right about now, what's being said, everything is real, premature. I mean, you have a guideline, so to speak, but at the same time, something can happen at the 11th hour. Like, prime example, the Sixers say they don't want to trade the pick. They're going to draft that player, right? But let's say if Milwaukee says, hey, we want the 3rd pick, Paul George, and some other player, and a couple seconds in the future first for Giannis. Oh, Daryl Morey is going to make that move. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to make that move. He has to make that move. Like, because the timeline is now. And then you have somebody to go with Maxey. So, like right now, everybody says everything. And there are some things that's coming out that, is real extremely speculative. And to be honest with you, the way I read it, it was kind of like, teams around the league think the Sixers. No one said what the Sixers were going to do. So with that being said, it's one of those things where, you got a little bit of wiggle room, but at the same time, if Giannis becomes available and you're saying I can have Giannis or Ace Bailey, I think I'm taking Giannis right now.
And the 76ers could go on the draft night and the analysts and whoever can say, well, we think they're keeping the pick. That's what we've heard. That's what other teams are thinking. And then all of a sudden, a crazy thing could drop that, the 76ers are trading and whatever it could be. So you just never know. It's going to be really interesting leading up to it to see what happens. Now, the thing I think they should do is keep it unless you can get a player like Giannis. And I mentioned that before, so I won't reiterate it too much. But at the same time, I realistically don't really see that happening. I don't really know too many teams that are trying to vouch after Paul George. And I know that pick could be included, or even Joel Embiid. I don't see that happening either, but their trade value is just a little bit low at this point to me. So we'll wait and see. But I think I like where they're at right now at the number 3 pick, and maybe just go in there, make it simple.
Here's the problem with being at the number 3 pick. Like everybody says they like it, and I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but they've been at the number 3 pick for a lot of years. Like this is going to be the fifth time they were at number 3 since the last 6 picks. So this is why it's a lot of uncertainty. What are they going to do? And we'll figure it out. Like we'll find out what they're going to do because we've been here before. That was a lot of excitement. And like, oh, we got to go get Joel, and we got to go out and get. They got Jahlil Okafor when when Porzingis would have been a better player. You know
Yeah,
what I
he's
mean?
not even in the
I mean,
NBA now.
yeah, there was times when they had 2 lottery picks. They got 2 of them, Joel Embiid and Dario, right? So it's been a lot. Like, it's been a lot of things where they had players and they just made poor decisions, and some guys just had bad luck. So to me, it's good to say, okay, everybody's happy about it, but I mean, and it's great. It's a better situation than they were in, but I just got to see what they're going to do with the pick. You know what I mean? They got to do something.
Yeah, and if they pick the guy at number 3, say it's Ace, how do they implement him? If they implement him right away, because we both agreed that they had to make sure it wasn't a Markelle Fultz situation. So the 76ers haven't had super luck with those high draft picks either. So Jahlil Okafor always rings a bell at number 3 for me, because I was covering a Blue Coats game this year, and he was on the Indiana Mad Ants in the G, trying to rehab, get healthy once again, and I just remember those days. He was with the Philadelphia 76ers as well, intended to be this, big player that just never really panned out to be that either. But 76ers, once again, number 3 pick. Let us know how you're feeling about it in the comments. It's getting closer and closer, people. So let us know how you're feeling. But of course, we can't not touch on the NBA playoffs and maybe some former 76ers that are currently in the NBA playoffs right now, trying to make it their magical run. So we'll touch on that in a moment when we come back here on Locked On 76ers. All right, so one player that you could say is not as big and never really got a big part on the 76ers, Isaiah Joe on the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's not getting incredible playing time in this playoff series. He has been put in there in some aspects, but that team, they were my favorites to go out and win the NBA championship. Game 7, they just completely dominated the Nuggets. But Isaiah Joe getting some run and trying to be one of the bench guys, you could say, on an NBA championship contender right now, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I mean, yeah, he's a a pretty good guy up for them. But the guy who really stands out to me is TJ McConnell. I'll be honest with you. I mean, because you look at TJ McConnell, who was a guy. I mean, Isaiah Joe was a 2nd-round draft pick, a guy who played well for the Sixers before they just waived him, which never made sense to me. But TJ McConnell was an undrafted guy who played on a tanking Sixers team, the process.
Yeah.
And back then, they were trying to get guys who they could identify to become NBA-type players. Well, TJ played well for the Sixers. He had some weaknesses, but the one thing is he always played hard. Well, when he became a free agent, the 76ers didn't even extend an offer or anything to him. No, they didn't make any contact with him. So what happens? He goes to Indiana. He brings the same grit, and he brings that grit that he played with in Philly, and they love him there. And now you look at him, and of all the guys who were former Sixers, left in the playoffs, he has the key role. And his role is, in this playoff series against Indiana and New York Knicks, is to provide defense and and make things uncomfortable for Jalen Brunson. So, he's the guy. Like, Isaiah really, the last Game 7, Isaiah didn't get into the game, was over with.
Until they brought in the backups.
Yeah, but TJ is a guy who, TJ, your role is to bring energy, hit open shots when you get them. But what we really need you to do is just be disruptive and get under Jalen Brunson's skin. So of all the guys, I look at him, as the most important former 76er remaining in the postseason.
He was so fun to watch in Philadelphia, too, even during the years where they were tanking. TJ just was an energizer bunny. He always had that energy coming in off the bench, whether it was 6th or 7th, whatever it may be. And I'm excited to see kind of the pesky defender he can be, all due respect. But he is a pest when he's out there, because if you're the offensive player saying, oh, my gosh, like, this guy is just going after me, and I can't get around him. So I'm curious to see how that matchup goes against Jalen Brunson. I do think it's going to be an interesting battle between Indiana and New York because those two teams are a little bit different, a little bit similar, but I do think the Pacers are very quick paced and also physical as well. And this whole NBA playoffs has been physical. But when I look at the Sixers in comparison to these teams, they got a lot of catching up to do. Even if Joel Embiid is healthy, I mean, this playoff series for the East, especially the West too, really competitive. The series have gone a little bit long. You just look at OKC and the Thunder as well. I mean, the 76ers have to be ready in all assets if they want to get to this point next year where they're able to beat teams like the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers to get where they want to be. Because this playoff run, the Celtics, even before Tatum got hurt, the Knicks were saying, hey, we're here, we're going to beat you, and they're going to advance, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, it's going to be a great series. I think the Pacers and the Knicks, it's going to be exciting. It's a clash of styles, as you will. Like, the Pacers, the way they play and how deep they are, traditionalists will tell you that the NBA game slows down. You don't play that way. They also say that you got to reduce your rotation, right? Well, this team goes 10 deep. They play guys. Now, they may not play all of them on a given night, but for the most part, it's like they know what – I mean, they share the ball. It's not a lot of ISO, and they bring in a lot of different bodies. Whereas you look at the Knicks, and it's all about Brunson, right? It's about him and a little bit of Cat. They'll probably play 7 guys, but the starters are all playing 40-plus minutes. So it's two different styles. And the thing about it is I think that this is something that people, NBA execs, are going to pay attention to because it's kind of like it's a copycat league when people are successful. So if Indiana becomes successful and if they win, then you're going to have people saying, you know what, maybe we need to keep and do something like they are. Let's stop being as ball dominant and spread the ball a little bit and then focus on having a deeper team. So, they have 3 point guards, all 3 of them play. That's just how it is over there. So I feel like this is going to be an exciting series.
I think so too. And, how it ties into the Sixers, when you look at it in terms of when you saw everybody on the floor last year, it was the Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid show, and Paul George wasn't getting involved. If the Pacers are successful and if they defeat the Knicks and go on to the NBA Finals, the 76ers are really going to need to learn how to share the basketball if other teams try to also implement that a little bit and run up and down the floor, whatever that might have you. But in the Western Conference, OKC is very similar as well, because watching that series against Denver, I was a little bit shocked with how deep they continue to go in their bench. Even when they were down by 12 in the fourth quarter, they would still continue to go deep and trust that bench. And clearly they have SGA, who's just a phenomenal player. But at the same time, there's other guys that can hit big time shots, other guys that go out there and hustle. And the 76ers, they have a chance to bring back a deep-ish team when you look at guys in terms of free agency or what have you, with a lot of question marks at the moment right now. But my, oh my, they need to get rid of this 2-man game between Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid after what we've been seeing in this NBA playoffs too.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I think moving forward, we could see that, we could see that, especially if they try to incorporate the guy that they bring in. Now, my thing is, if you go out there and you make a trade for a A-list player, you're going to have to do that, especially. You're going to have to.
Yeah, it's going to be almost forced at that point. You got to get everybody involved. So we'll wait and see. Once again, the wait continues to see what the 76ers will do with that number 3 pick, if they keep it, if they trade it, what have you. We're not saying they're going to do either or at this point, people, but at the same time, it's interesting to see that the options they have. Also, let us know in the comments who you're rooting for in the NBA playoffs and what you think the 76ers need to be a team to compete against the current squads in the NBA playoffs as well. Well, that just about does it here for Locked On 76ers. And thank you so much for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NBA Big Board Show, NBA Draft Expert, and it will react to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time.